there was one girl. This was the wildest girl in town, and she dyed her hair blue and then like purple and then
Mm.
pink one week. That was
Mm.
the wild girl. There was a sister that visited the community, and they bought lands here too.
Mhm.
And she was talking to my wife, and she told my wife, she goes, "I can't believe it. These hamburger buns in New Mexico are so much better. Where did you buy them?" And my wife was like, "Right there in the kitchen. I made them."
So we were just talking, and I started telling him about your community, and he's like, "Well,
Hmm.
damn, that sounds like a cult."
We have more cows than people here. It's a running joke.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are here on Mind Heist episode 175. It's five, Muhammad, right?
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah, it's five, mashallah. And I like that number. I feel like that number's better even than 200, And because of that, we have a guest in Shariyf. Assalamu alaikum, Shariyf.
Walaikum salam.
So, Shariyf, remind, for the people that don't know, didn't hear your previous episodes, can you give us, what's your 60-second summary of yourself?
Well, alhamdulillah, now I'm known as the Muslim Homesteader. I've established an off-grid community in New Mexico in the southwest area of the United States. Alhamdulillah, we have now a community of 50 people, and basically we just look for like-minded Muslims who want to get away from the fitna of the cities and just, live this slow, relaxed life where you can reflect on Allah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Ex-Marine.
Yes, yes.
I thought that's like a core part of your identity,
Well,
Probably not.
it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, no.
yeah.
What I understand about you is that influenced, who you are quite a bit today, right?
Well, most definitely. I mean, the biggest influences I would say uh, in my life were the Marine Corps and judo. Those two things played a very big part in my life.
For sure. And you said you have 50 people in the community. Now, I feel like the
Yes,
last time we spoke was like 2 years ago in terms of on the podcast. Is that about right?
man, that sounds
Maybe
about right,
less.
I
I think we
guess.
did a year ago.
I feel like it was back then you had maybe less than 30 people.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
it's grown quicker than before, right?
Alhamdulillah, it has. Now, when I say we have 50 people, we have 50 people, like 50, maybe 52 in total.
Yeah.
However, a couple of the families are actually away right now. One family is actually in Turkey. Um, they are working on establishing a school there. So when I give the numbers, I still count them because they're still part of the community. They just go back and forth.
Okay. Are, are they in Istanbul?
No, they're not. I
Oh.
forget some small place.
Ah, okay, got you. Okay, so how did it grow so quickly? What triggered it to grow quicker than before?
Uh, I don't know really. I mean, we put the message out there.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Um, I got a lot of people contacting me because of the episodes with you guys. So
Oh,
alhamdulillah, that
alhamdulillah.
was,
Great.
I mean, yeah, it was,
We have listeners. Yes.
you have a lot of listeners. Not to say it in a negative kind of way, but I have people like weekly contacting me, about different things. And, I try to tell them, just go to, my YouTube channel and watch the videos because a lot of the questions that they're asking, I
Yeah.
cover, in the videos. But, people want to talk to me personally. And alhamdulillah, I take the time and uh, I'm helping some other people with, projects that they're working on too.
So do most people that contact you, they want to start their own thing or they want to join your homestead?
It's a combination of both. So there's a family in the UK. They bought some land, and they're starting a little community there. However, the UK has a lot of restrictions compared to the US. So you got
Right,
to get
right.
this planning permission and just all kinds of stuff. Where here it's just like, this is my land. I'm going to do what I want and just roll with it.
So there's no such thing as
Uh,
planning permission in the US.
when I heard there is, depending on where you live,
Ah,
um, but when I hear about the stuff people say they have to go through, I'm just like, I can't believe it. So, for example, I have my land, and we put up fencing. We built, different structures. I don't have any permits or permission from anybody. I I own the land. Now, one of the great things about New Mexico is if you have, is it 40? I believe it's 40 acres or more,
yeah.
then you don't need a permit. You don't need a permit.
You don't need a permit to build, you mean?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So smaller than that, and you would.
Yeah,
Interesting.
depending on where you are.
Right.
Alhamdulillah, I'm over that, so I don't need a permit to build.
Yeah, I get you. I think actually now that we're talking about this, I remember because I studied this kind of in urban design, that I think it was 1947. In the UK, they put this law in place where almost it's kind of one of those dodgy government ones where they introduced this concept of planning permission. I think it was 1947. It was something like the Housing Act or something, where basically the government from only from that year onwards, they could say, yeah, we allow you to do this with your land, or we don't allow that you to do this. Right? Before that was like fully free, like what you're talking about. So when I remember when we learned that, I was thinking, well, damn, that kind of means you don't fully own your land. If they can dictate what you do with it.
Yeah.
What year was that again?
I think it was 1947.
That would make sense because if you go back a little bit before that, during World War II, the British government basically seized a lot of farms and told farmers what they could grow and couldn't grow
Yeah.
because they had to be more self-sufficient. And it was actually a positive thing. They became more self-sufficient, but the people lost control.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, what I wanted to dig in with you, at least initially, Sharif, is the idea of building a community, right? Because I've been thinking about that a lot since I moved to Turkey. There are a lot of people, mashallah, moving here, like English speaking people. And of course, there are a lot of Arabs, especially Syrians, that are here. So, you have different people, immigrants coming into Turkey, but also other countries all around the world. And sometimes they're just on that vibe where they're like, look, I'm here to find a job, to make my money, and I might be gone in 3 years. But in other places, they come here more on a permanent basis, and they're thinking, I need a community. I need people I can trust. I need people my kids can play with. I need people my wife can trust, this and that. I need friends and all of that. So it got me, thinking about how do you make a community from scratch? And I had people telling me like, you can't make a community, or like trying to artificially force a community will never be as successful as just having like extended family around you. So yeah, how do you go about starting this? Because I think you were the first one in your area, like in terms of Muslims who are part of this project. You were the first family, and now it's grown, mashallah, to 50 people. So how do you go about that?
Well, what we did in my case was okay, we bought our land first, and then I spoke to a brother that I knew that I was working with in Saudi, and convinced him to buy property on the other side of the highway. So he bought property over there, and you know, just because something happened, his wife actually had a baby prematurely. They decided that they weren't going to move out here because
Right.
it's too remote. So we discussed the situation, and he agreed to split up his land to sell smaller plots to other people. Then I contacted some more like-minded people, and they started buying up the plots. Um,
So how did
and
you know these people?
well, for example, Khalid Green, we worked together in Saudi Arabia. We were both working in the English department.
Yeah.
So actually, he used to come into my office and like look at me and laugh, like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm planning,
My
my
empire.
community here." And then next thing you know, he's like, oh, I'm joining you. So then, we got him. And
Right.
then we had a website. We haven't updated that thing in years, seems
Okay.
like. But on there, we had a uh, call looking for like-minded people. And then anybody that was interested, we had a 14-page document explaining what's going on here.
Okay. Wow.
Everything from religious things to um, environmental things. So, for example, uh, if we look at like different areas, the only problems that we really have here environmentally are low precipitation
Mm.
and wildfires.
Mm.
Um, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we can grow. We're hardiness zone 6, and if you don't know what that means, it's a pretty good hardiness zone. You can grow pretty much everything you want, except tropical, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we put that document out there, and there was a sister named Aziza. She sent us an email, so we sent her the document. She read it, and the next thing, her and her son were on their way from California to drive out here to
Mm.
see everything.
Wow.
And um, and then they were like, okay, yes. So then we do a small check on the people because we want to make sure we have people that are, like-minded. We don't want to get taken over from some other group of people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Define small check. What kind of things are we looking at here? With your marine expertise. He's following them,
well,
bro. He's following them undercover like a month. He's like, which masjid you pray in, huh? No.
well, what I do is I end
Horribly,
up
actually.
doing, I look at their name, and then the internet, man. The internet is forever. Anything you put
Mm.
on there, I'm finding.
Oh,
Uh, so then I know what masjid you went to. I know what you look like. I got your address. I got your address for various years, aliases. I can look up criminal records.
oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. Uh,
Okay. Well connected
and
individual.
so then I just, see, okay, is this person going to be okay?
Yeah.
Since then, we've upgraded our system to we have like a board now. So we have a priority list, who gets in and who doesn't get in. Because we're trying to build a community. So those that are at the top of our list are married couples with young children.
Mm.
Right.
Because we want another generation here. We don't want to just, bring in older people and then bam, that's it.
Mm.
Uh, so then after that would be I think it's a father with children. He has custody of the children. Then it would be a single sister who has boys that are at least 13 years old. Then after that would be a married couple, no children, and then older people and things like this. Uh, and just to clarify why we're saying a sister with like a 13-year-old boy. Alhamdulillah, I like helping people, but I have my own projects, and I would get called to do everything to set up,
Mm.
solar or this.
Yeah.
So I need somebody that's going to be able to look out for that sister. So her son.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh,
So, and Sharif, so you initially you invited people that you know personally, yeah, like
yes,
they're on the same wavelength as you, and you like them, you get on with them, etc. Like, how many people did you invite personally?
I put it out there to to pretty much everybody that was Muslim that I knew, and surprisingly, very few people decided to join me.
Yeah.
And it's a little discouraging at first. It's like, man, I'm like, this lifestyle is good. You
Mm.
know me. We get along together. So we're like, why don't you want to be a part of this?
Mm.
And unfortunately, a lot of people are like, you know, you get it going and I'll join later.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't want to
Oh,
put in the work.
so you were inviting them before you'd gone, right?
Yes,
Mm.
yes,
Okay.
actually,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And Khalid Green
And
said he would join you at that stage.
um, yeah, but actually, I had bought my land and then I was going, like, I would come to the land in the summer, then I go
Mm.
back to Saudi after the
Yes.
break and work.
Yes.
So we were discussing this
Mm.
for like 2 years,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
then he
think
decided.
that's probably key, Sharif, right? Like that you bought the land because you put a stake in the ground that I'm doing it with or without you, and then people feel like, okay, yeah, this guy's serious, and then they might take your invite more seriously and really consider it more, right?
Yes, I mean, there's actually another brother that's on the East Coast of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to do the same thing. And they don't have the land, but they're trying to get people to make a commitment of, I think it was at least $10,000 per family.
Mm-hmm.
So then this way they'll have a chunk of money to go purchase land.
Uh-huh.
And um, they're still looking. They're still looking for land, and they're still looking for people to commit.
Is it more
Uh,
expensive over there, maybe?
on the East Coast, yes.
Yeah. But when you say East Coast, not we're not talking about New York kind of area. It's more North Carolina or something like that.
Well, the whole East Coast, anywhere from
Oh,
Maine all the way
anywhere.
down to
Okay. Okay. Got you.
um,
So the first stage was inviting people you knew personally. Then people heard about it and they, started coming forward that they were interested. And you basically had this manifesto. And you said
yes.
you put the manifesto together. You said we. Who is we?
My wife and I.
Okay. So Yani, I don't want to brush over these details because this is an important detail. You set this up. It's not like in a very extremely open and democratic process. This is, you are the pioneer. You started this. So it's based on your manifesto and your kind of values, you could say, right? It wasn't, yeah, basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot be, in my opinion, democratic in the beginning. It just
Yeah.
no. You're going to have too many ideas, too many people trying to make decisions, and
Yeah.
things aren't. They're not going to happen.
Yes.
Um, so you have to check yourself too. Are you doing this the right way? Is it fair? For everyone. And then afterwards, once things start, to roll along, then it can be more democratic. Get more input and let people make choices.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but in the beginning, no, you have to decide on your own.
So when people are joining, they know what they're signing up for, that these are the rules already, and I can't necessarily come in and change those rules.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Have
Okay.
you
So that way you filter out people that are going to cause issues, I guess.
have you ever kicked anyone out or thought about it?
Ah,
Okay.
no, we haven't
Just
kicked
wondering like
anyone
how
out.
you would deal with that because alhamdulillah at the moment it doesn't sound like you've had any issues with anybody, but I
Now,
mean I'm sure
there's a.
there'll come a time.
Now, I hope not. But see, there's a thing too. This is two ways to establish community. So, one way is the way we did it. So everybody out here owns their own property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just right next to each other. We're all connected.
Mm.
So, for example, the brother that bought the land had 100 acres on the other side of the highway, and he decided to split that up. So people bought those plots of land. The other way that we're looking at doing in the future, because there's more land available, is that the community buys the land, and then we will rent or lease out plots of land to people.
Mm.
This will make it more affordable for people to come in. It will also prevent problems. If we have somebody that just turns out to be a problem, your lease
Yeah.
is up, goodbye.
Mm.
I like that.
And you're the Amir right now, right?
That's correct.
And does the
Rules from
board
the
have
highest.
the, like, at what year? How many years are you there now, Sharif? 7 or 10 or what is it?
Um, I've been here full time since 2015, so 7 years.
MashaAllah. May Allah put barakah in it and continue it, inshallah.
And
So now 7 years in, you said you've got a board. Can the board, like, how much influence does the board have versus like the Amir?
so
You're staging a coup.
once again, no, this is another thing too. It's going to sound like, man, this guy's just like making sure he ain't getting removed for nothing. So when you establish your board, you're going to make sure that your board contains like-minded people that aren't going to agree with you on every issue, but will look out for the best interests of the community, and they're not going to try to overthrow you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so basically they're not going to overthrow you. They're going to be, a devil's advocate or like a sounding board or, advising basically, Majlis Shura
Yes.
kind of thing.
No, yes.
Yeah.
So for example,
Uh-huh.
on my board is my wife is on the board. If
Mm-hmm.
she overthrows me, we got problems. Uh, so um, my dear beloved brother, actually, it's my ex-wife's nephew. He's on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the brother, my ex-son-in-law's father, he's on the board. Uh, my ex-wife's nephew's wife, she's on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So we have people that, I know, very deeply, trust them. Uh, I mean, trust them with everything. I mean, for example, my ex-wife's nephew is on the board uh, because when I was going through my divorce, I mean, he supported me 100%, even against his family. And when we were in court, he said, I have to stand for the truth, regardless of who my family is. So,
So on that principle, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could rely on him on that. That's pretty good.
I know, Sharif, like when you were looking into the whole homesteading, farming side of things, you did so much research. Damn, can you hear that?
yes.
Yeah.
Very noisy. I know you did a lot of research, Sharif, right? What about on
Yes.
this side of things in terms of governance, you could call it, or just like community, setting up a community? Did you look into that at all?
I did, but it was like after the fact. Um, so, and I wish I could give you titles of the books that I read, but I was, in this book and this book or watching this YouTube video and then just looking at different communities and how they lived. One of the communities that I looked at was the Amish community. I'm from Pennsylvania. I grew up, around them. I worked on their farms, and I understood some of their principles. For example, people think that they reject technology. They don't reject technology. They delay technology.
Right.
And the reason they do that, they say, even if what a member in their community wants to do is good, it has to be good for the whole community.
Right.
So if it's good for you, but not the whole community, then we say this new thing cannot be implemented here. We don't go to that extreme. Everybody still has their own land. They can do what they want to do. But the idea of coming together for projects to do work um, is a community effort. So, for example, we had to cut the grass at the masjid the other day. So one brother, he came, his two sons came, I was there, we got everybody working. Then when another brother got off work, he came and he starts, to finish up, the rest of the area that we had to cut. Um, we have our masjid renovation project going on. So, people are working in shifts to get things done.
And that kind of like
So
cooperation, do people sign up for something specific, like specific duties, or is it just like the general vibe is like, yeah, chip in wherever possible?
yeah, the general vibe is to chip in wherever possible. I mean, whatever talent you have, you help out with. Um, and so, for example, we have a Telegram group for the community. So I'll put a announcement in there like, "Hey, I'm Gary. Go to the masjid. I'm about to do this. If anybody's available, please join me." And they'll come.
Yeah.
So I put it out there in general. So uh, I don't want to call up somebody personally and say, "Hey, can you come help me?"
Yeah.
Because maybe they're busy or whatever. So general announcement. That way you can reject it or accept it,
Yes.
and we get things done.
Do you ever find situations where it's like, okay, we need to cut the grass at the masjid. If anyone's up for it, then it's at this day, this time, and then just like no one shows up.
No, not no one shows up, but they showed up late.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, that's quite impressive, I feel. Like, because let me give you a real example, Sharif, yeah? I'm,
Okay.
because my life, most of my life, I was like isolated, no community. Like, even my best friends, they'd be my best friends for like 3 years and they'll just leave the country, because in UAE, that's just how it is. However, in Turkey, I'm like, it's quite like late into my life, but I'm trying to bring people together. I'm trying to create something, right?
Right.
So I will organize things. It's not work. It's not cutting grass. It's enjoyable things. But sometimes I put it out there. I'm organizing it. I'm taking it upon myself to organize something like, let's take the kids to the beach. Let's go to the forest, whatever. And sometimes, not no one's interested, but very few. But I'm guessing you don't have that issue because you filtered people. Is that what you think is happening with you?
That's one of the things. We filtered people and our location. So, for example, um, it is an hour and 15-minute drive to the hospital, to the closest sizable city, to go shopping for groceries or anything like that. So any activity that we can do together is really appreciated. And also, we schedule things in a way where we have to get together, but we don't overburden the people. Uh, so, for example, and I got another thing too. So, because I teach judo and like the members of the community are in my judo class, decide not to show up for a project and see what happens when we go back to class.
I love it.
But alhamdulillah, everybody seems to work. I mean, we got a really good crew here. Everybody, gets along, um, and it's kind of surprising uh, because the reality of it is that we're going to disagree. I mean, you disagree with your blood siblings, and we're brothers in Islam. You're going to disagree with them too. So
Yeah. So you must have people that they still cooperate. They still have the same general values, but some people just not. They're not close. They don't end up being close friends, right? That I'm
yes,
sure that
it's,
happens. That
yeah,
kind of stuff.
yes, and we have that situation out here.
Yeah.
There's an individual. I mean, alhamdulillah, he helps out and everything, but he's not as close as I would like him to be. I mean, but that's just his personality. I
Yeah.
can't change somebody's personality.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we plan activities like we have a canyon that is close by. It's beautiful. Rock climbers from all over the world come here. Um, so we take trips to the canyon, or we might go to the rifle range, pistol range, and go shoot for a while. Uh, Sometimes you just shoot on your own property because we don't really need to go to the range,
Yeah.
but we do that too. We try to get groups of people to do it.
So you do that, and these are some of the activities, and people show up. So I think my problem is I'm not filtering people, Sharif, isn't it?
It could be. You gotta filter, and also, I mean, you gotta realize everybody's not going to be as excited about doing these activities as you are. Uh, so even if you have a small group of people, it's better.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. When before this, I used to do camping trips for Muslims.
Okay.
Okay, and I used to rent out the state park. The the first year that we did it, we had four families.
Okay.
Okay, and it was like alhamdulillah, it was nice, four families together. The last year I did it, it was 50 families and it was like 250 people. Um, and it was alhamdulillah, it was so beautiful because it's one of the nicest state parks in Pennsylvania. So when you come into the wooded area, it was just Muslims there. It was ours. There's like a road that makes a loop, and it was just all of us. And then they have like the bathroom facility, and then the volleyball courts, and then the boat dock. And we had Quran competition, volleyball, we had wrestling, we had just a nice weekend for the Muslims. But it took time to go from four families to 50 families.
Yeah, I get that. So basically, like, firstly, I think you always need someone who is the pioneer, who's willing to take the initiative to get it started themselves. And then even if there's one person who joins them and that it continues like that for a few months or whatever, eventually if you just keep it up, you're going to find a third person, then a fourth, and then it builds like snowballs from there kind of thing, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have more people that want to join us. However, we don't have plots of land small enough.
Uh-huh.
So one of the evils of the world is money, and people have a lack of it.
Yeah.
So they want to join us. They love this lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, I only need say 5 acres of land, and I'm like, well, one, this is a rural community, and they don't break up pieces of land that small.
Mm.
Um, so we can't do that. That's why we're looking at buying a bigger piece, and then the community owns it. Then we can lease out smaller plots to people.
Yeah. So right now, like, what's the minimum you can buy?
I can tell you the minimum for sale right now
Uh-huh.
that I've seen is 131 acres.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's more than you have, right?
Yeah, that's my neighbor.
Yeah.
It's the piece right next to me. Alhamdulillah, this guy is so great.
Yeah.
Um, I helped him when he was doing the negotiation with the realtor to get his property.
Uh-huh.
And so he agreed that whenever he decides to sell, that he'll sell it to me or to the Muslims. So
Mm.
we have first dibs on it.
Yeah.
And he also lets me know, like, if there's a possibility he's going to sell it. So
Mm.
we can block people like, nah, we don't really like them. We don't want them near us
Mm. Yeah.
because it's a really close community, including the non-Muslims.
Yeah. And one person can kind of mess it up.
Oh yes, so that's why we
How
have to be
close?
selective too.
So I was going to
Excuse
ask,
me.
how close is the nearest non-Muslim sort of resident?
A mile away.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Well, it's right next to Sharif's land, right? This guy is non-Muslim who's got the 130 acres for sale, right?
Yeah,
Well,
but I don't
he
think
has
he's
that land
living
here,
near.
but he's not living there.
Ah, he's
But
not living there.
Mm.
Okay.
the next to his land, there's a family, and they've been there forever. They're one of the original homesteading families. When I mean homesteading, like the Homesteading Act in America, when the pioneers came out and
Mm.
got a government plot of land.
Mm. Right. Wow. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
just generations later.
I can imagine. Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you, Sharif, like, when you have a community, like 50 people, how many families is it, by the way? Is that like 10 families or?
Um, Let me gonna think here. So me, uh, 10 or 11.
Okay. So 10 or 11 families, like no doubt people have issues between families and inside of their family, they're going to have issues, problems, disagreements. I just was wondering like how involved you guys get in other people's issues because I'm not saying it that in that it would be a bad thing. I think sometimes you have to do like amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi an al munkar. You have to help people out sometimes, They're obviously having issues and you step in, but how have you defined like at what stage you might step in and try and help things out?
Well, we have a policy here.
Mm.
So, we will help people, whatever issues that they have, say two brothers have whatever dispute. But for serious marital issues,
Mm.
we're not handling it ourselves. We're going to
Mm.
refer that to a scholar on the outside for a couple reasons. One, uh, I mean, how would you feel if I start interfering in your family, coming between you and your wife, saying, okay, I'm going to sit with your wife. My wife is going to be there too, and we're going to discuss the issues that you have and try to help you guys out. It's going to be embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
It's going to strain our relationship as brothers.
Mm.
Um, things like this. So we're not going to have that.
Mm.
Plus, then too, you might be like, well, who are you? You have like no right to, you know, be saying anything. You're not granting any hula here, or something like this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, so we're not having that. So those issues get
Mm.
referred out.
But would you
So
like, how would you refer it out? Would you go to them and just say, like, why don't you do this? Or how does that happen?
yeah, pretty much basically
Yeah, just
if
advise
somebody,
them to do.
yes, like,
Mm.
okay, this is a person that we have contact with, who has contact with scholars that are on the same path that we're on,
Yeah.
and here. So you can't say, well, I don't speak Arabic, so I don't know how am I going to deal with that scholar. Don't worry, we got you covered.
Yeah. What do you think, Sharif, about this is going to sound funny, but I was actually telling, there are a few brothers here from the US, and they came here to Turkey, and they were saying like I was in a cult, yeah, like a Muslim cult, yeah. And it was an interesting story. He was telling me how it worked, and I guess he was like a convert and stuff, and he was new to Islam, so maybe he was vulnerable in that moment to falling into that. But then he like kind of left it, and then he was in Turkey, so we were just talking, and I started telling him about your community, and he's like, "Well, damn, that sounds like a cult." Okay.
Yes.
So what do you think? Like what it's I'm not asking you is it a cult? I'm saying what is there's a fine line I think between a community that is, you know, not fully democratic, it's more values led community, and a cult. I do think there's a fine line and it's hard to differentiate. What do you think?
Well, yes, I would. There is a fine line between the two. Alhamdulillah, we're not a cult. Uh, so one of the things that I do here is I make sure everything that we do is open uh, within the community and for the greater community. Uh, so the non-Muslims that are here, they know me personally. Oh, as a matter of fact, the guy that has 131 acres next to me, he's a retired, police officer. So we're cool. I teach his kids judo. I actually tutor them in English because of the whole pandemic, situation. So they know me, very well. The non-community, non-Muslim community, when they had the elections, some people were asking me to run for county commissioner. I served
Mashallah.
as the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce here. Um, I teach judo to the public, to the whole county. Anybody who wants to come,
Yeah.
my classes are free. You just have to pay for the liability insurance through the, parent organization and buy a uniform. So we are connected to the greater community.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's nobody's going to say, oh, they're a cult. Actually, we have non-Muslims defending us because somebody had said something, and the lady in the post office, uh, she got riled up. She was ready to fight, and her husband actually had to grab her, and restrain her, like, no. So, alhamdulillah, we have a very good relationship. So, it's not a cult. Plus, I'm not in everybody's business. Everybody can do what they want to do.
Yeah.
We're just a Muslim community getting
Yeah.
together for Salat. We just had a Nafika,
Mashallah.
alhamdulillah, so we had our first little homesteading Muslimah that was born, Safiya.
Mashallah.
Um,
Allah yahfadha.
so yeah, everybody's just happy. We have a very good group of people, uh, and the selection process helped out a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, maybe there isn't a fine line then, because what seems to be the difference from what you said is that you're open in terms of people can come and go as they please. You're not like it's not like you're only interacting with people in your community. There are those non-Muslims there, which kind of forms a second community as well, right? So there's a lot of mixing going on, which is kind of the opposite of a cult. A cult is like, where are you going? How are you leaving? You can't be leaving. That's what a cult's like, isn't it? So there was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually,
You're right.
I
You're
don't know
right.
if you guys heard about this in Amman, Jordan. There was some story that came out in Muslim Matters about a supposed cult that was going on, like some kind of Sufi sheikh. People moved there specifically to kind of live under his leadership, and they had a whole neighborhood in Amman kind of locked off in terms of it. From the outside, if you visited, it sounded like, you come and go as you please. But in reality, on the borders of that neighborhood, there are people watching who's coming and going. And if you're, within that community and you're leaving, they might actually ask you questions about that. So there were kind of some sort of allegations around that being a cult, you know. So that even within a city, they're like stopping people coming, going.
I
Apparently,
think that's
anyway.
Mm.
this is. I think the label is thrown around easily for those that aren't used to living in a community sort of setting, like a rural community setting,
Sure.
because any sort of remote community is going to have a level of policing, interpolicing within it.
Yeah,
Because
it's
people
the old
talk, neighbors
lady looking
talk.
out the window at you, and it's
Yeah,
saying, "Oh, where's he
absolutely.
going?"
I work in Sussex, Ardingly it's called, and it's literally like half a mile big,
Ah.
And I was in the community center there, and it was like everybody knew everybody, and it was so weird for me to be in a place like that, and there was no phone signal, and I just thought this could be a cult as well. Like this could be, they could have some sort of norms and values and stuff, and they kind of police themselves in that way. So yeah, don't take any offense, Sharif. Don't take
Oh
any
no, no,
offense.
no, no! Don't worry.
No, bro, I know Sharif is not soft, bro.
Absolutely. Earlier you said about the non-Muslims defending you and stuff. That reminds me of a conversation we had last week where we were talking about specific. I think we were kind of looking at your neck of the woods and what the political kind of framework was there. Like, are those people there like left wingers, right wingers? What is the kind of, because we were thinking obviously trying to assess the political makeup of America from the outside and making our wild conclusions. But I made a statement that I think that in a lot of ways, right-wing Americans are closer and maybe more receptive to Islam than like liberal lefts. But what do you think your area of non-Muslims are? What do they support? What are their values?
Okay, so the area that I'm in, uh, okay, let me just do this. In the United States, we have red states, blue states. That's what they want to call them.
Yeah,
Okay, so blue Democratic, red is Republican. I live in New Mexico, which is a 50-50 state. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
we
We
have a
Muhammad thought it was like a red state, but we looked it up and we saw right now at least it's blue, right?
yeah, the governor is a Democrat.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, and as a matter of fact, one of the former governors from New Mexico was the ambassador to the UN. I mean, he's got a great track record of, international relations. Um, Regardless if you're Democrat or Republican in New Mexico, everybody seems to be really conservative. Okay,
Okay.
so it's different. So the Democrats in New Mexico are not like the Democrats in California or New
Right.
York.
Alhamdulillah.
Uh, Alhamdulillah. So, for example, my county only has about 600 people in it,
Right.
and the whole state only has 2 million people in it.
Oh.
And from the north to the south, if you drive, it's about a 8.5 hour drive, and then from east to west is 6 hours. So, and that whole area is 2 million people.
I mean, that's like the
Uh,
size of the UK. But you're saying for America, that's small, yeah?
yeah, I mean, New Mexico is a sizable state, but it's not the biggest.
Uh-huh.
Like my county, to drive from one end of the county to the other end, it takes you about an hour and 20 minutes, and you have like 550 to 600 people in that area. We have more cows than people here. It's a running joke. Um,
So in your county, do you have like elections? Like, are there some sort of results where you can determine what way people lean in your county specifically?
oh yes, and it's very important. Uh, okay, so for example, you have some Muslims that are like, say, they are against voting, and then you have some that say, yes, we can vote. But in local elections, it's extremely important because it directly affects you. It's not like they're making laws, but they're determining which projects and how the money that county has will be spent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so you want to make sure the county commissioners that you have in place are going to look out for your best interest and not for some friend of theirs who has a construction company. And I mean, I'll just go off on this one for a second. So one of the things that we did out here is, I invited my non-Muslim family to come out here too. So my sister is the superintendent of the roads department. So she's hiring and firing people who want to work for the county. Uh, and the county commissioner for her district is really friendly. So we have a very strong connection there for Muslims. It's easy for me to tell my sister, hey, there's a brother that's coming out. He wants to, try to get a job. And she's like, send him. And I've done that. And Muslims have gotten hired. So, it's one of the avenues here. So we're changing the landscape by putting in the right people into, certain positions, which will make it easier for, Muslims in the future. The
Mashallah.
same thing for the sheriff. You elect, I don't know about in the UK, but we elect our sheriff, who's going to be the sheriff.
Okay.
And if you don't want that person, we say, hey, look, let's get this person. And now, because we're becoming more and more sizable, we actually have a voting block. So the Muslims are actually starting to be in a position where we can determine the election. So
That's awesome. That's amazing. That's not just your community though. I'm sure there's other Muslims that make up part of that. Is that right? Like outside of your community, are there more Muslims that you just haven't?
no, I'm just talking about like the county election.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. But
So, but my
in general, are
community,
there other Muslims that are not like that there, but are not part of your, immediate community?
everybody here is under my authority.
So there's no other Muslims in like the non-Muslim areas, so to speak.
No, so we do have some families that are living in town.
Yeah.
They're not out here in the rural part, but that's only 5 minutes away. So they're
Right,
part of
cool.
our community also.
Oh, awesome.
And we did that on purpose. We don't all want to be out here. We want to have people that are in the rural area, it's not even a city, it's a little village because the population there is only like 150. But we want people there, and it's a good transition for those who aren't ready to live this off-grid lifestyle. If you still want to have regular electricity and water and all the public utilities, go to the village, live there, just get yourself a nice plot of land, and then either stay or move out later.
I think for 7 years, you've made so much progress, right? Like it's very quick actually in terms of the kind of the influence you're having and the relationships you have, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at other intentionally built communities in the United States. Now, one of the biggest and most successful one is called Dancing Rabbit. Uh, and I just say that in case anybody wants to look it up. I'm not promoting them, definitely not. But
Is that a hippie
they,
thing, by the way?
yeah, it is. Uh, their timeline is actually longer than ours. I mean, when you look at it, we're more successful than they have been. I mean, they're huge now, but when you look at from when they started and when they got their land and how many people were there and everything, we're faster. Uh, it seems really slow for me because I'm here and I'm wanting a lot of people. I want a big community. I want to be like when you drive down the road, you're like, whoa, man, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, am I in the Middle East or something? Like, what's going on here? Uh, but that we're not there yet.
What else did you learn from the Amish?
I learned something that we know as Muslims that the women work harder than men.
Whoa.
I gotta give a shout out to my sisters on the podcast. They they do a tremendous job. Muslim women, just like Amish women, are like the backbone of the society. They are having children, raising children, taking care of the house. Uh, and we always joke about it. When a woman gets sick, she still works. When a man gets sick, I mean, nothing's happening, man. He's
It's
just
game
in
The
over.
end
bed.
of the world.
Exactly. And I saw this with the Amish. I was working on a potato harvester, and the Amish girls that were there, their hands were like moving like like the speed of light. It seemed like,
Mm.
and the Amish boys were just like taking their time. And then when we had a break, uh, they just got off the harvester, they ran to the pond, and they're jumping in and they're going swimming. And the girls are still working, even though it's like break time.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, so a serious work ethic uh, is one of the things that I learned from them.
Mm.
Another thing is, did you ever wonder why Amish people like ride in horse and buggies and they don't have cars?
No.
Mm. I just thought it's anti-technology thing.
Well, delay in technology, but um, one of the reasons is it takes you longer to get from point A to point B.
Okay.
They want this, they want to take longer because during this time, they reflect on God. They will
Mm.
be
Right.
going over Bible verses, they'll be singing religious songs. They're actually teaching their child during this, travel time compared to modern society. People are traveling, they put in, pull out an iPad or some, game and
Yeah.
they're zoned.
That's
Uh,
incredible, man. That's crazy because
They
a lot of
must.
the time, we hear, for example, when Facebook and YouTube and stuff was becoming bigger, right? Like 2007, 8 kind of thing, yeah. And a lot of people used to call it what do they used to call haram book or something, a fisk book or something, yeah. They used to say all these like it's really bad, Facebook, for example. But then you start hearing people say, look, we can't just not have any da'wah online and this and that. So then they started joining it, and now it's like no one even questions it, right? Whereas
right.
what the Amish seem to have done is like, no, we don't have to just give up and be like, yes, this is how 99% of the world are going, and so we must join that. They kind of be like, no, if we have, this tight knit community, enough of a tight knit community, we can actually dictate, the direction we go, right? That's that's bold.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Another thing too with the horse and buggy is and maybe you've experienced it. Uh, your car has a flat or the engine doesn't start, and you're like,
Mm.
oh man, what am I doing? Uh, it's real easy for the Amish to just go to their neighbor and borrow their horse
Mm.
Hmm.
and to keep on going because they'll
Mm.
loan out a horse, no problem.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I've seen some
So,
of the Amish have like harvesters or tractors or something. Some of them do have that, right?
well, okay, so we have Amish and we have Mennonites.
Okay.
They both descend from the teachings of Anabaptist Jacob Ammon, but there was like a split. So
Okay.
if you see people that are dressed like Amish but driving cars,
Mm.
most likely they're Mennonites.
Right.
However, if you see somebody that's dressed like an Amish person and they're young, saying 16, 17, 18, early 20s, they could be Amish because they have this thing called Rumspringa, which means in German means to run around.
Mm.
And it's during this time period that they let their youth experience the world and decide if you're going to be Amish or you're going to live in the world of the English. That's what they
Mm.
call it.
Mm.
Oh, we've
And they
got that
have
here, bro.
what's that?
We've got a community just like that here where I live. It's about
Oh, okay,
45 minutes away from me. They're called Bruderhofs, and they basically are like the Amish in that same way, delaying technology, highly religious, traditional clothing, traditional community. But then they have what you just mentioned, where they let their teens out. I think maybe 16 to 18 out into London. They live there for a year
mhm,
and then decide whether they want to continue or come back. So yeah.
yes, that's it. And the Amish in the U.S., it's a 99 point something retention rate. Like nobody
Mm.
leaves the Amish community. They had the chance. They went out there, experienced it,
Yeah.
and when they go out there, they can drive, they can drink, they do drugs, they whatever they want to do. But you make your decision and you stick with your decision,
Mm.
and then you become part of the Amish church. Now, if you decide to leave the Amish, then you have no family. They
Yeah.
shun you.
Yeah.
So you've grown up this whole your whole life with not just support from your family, but from your neighbors and everybody to you were completely on your own. Go live with the English if that's what you want.
Mm.
That shows the power of networks and communities and family and relationships in terms of
Yes.
like it's a very very big deal. It's a very very big deal. And you know, I always mention this book by Johan Hari. It's called Lost Connections. Yes.
Okay.
And it's about depression. And the summary you could say is that depression does not come from chemical imbalances in the brain. It comes from a loss of connection with Allah, obviously we would say, and also with a loss of connection with Allah, with your purpose, with family, with friends, having a support network. A lot of mental illness comes from that as a foundation cause, you know. And so it kind of makes sense that would you say goodbye to that after, you know, 2 decades or whatever having it, and now you're on your own? And when you go out, you can imagine, you know, you go out to the US or wherever big city in the US, and you just find like, oh, people are selfish here. Oh, people like they're friends with me, but only so I can help them, or you know, they let me down in my time of need, and maybe they never experienced that in their community, and
No.
ultimately they vote for community over, you know, materialistic pleasures, because that is the logical choice, I think, when you've experienced both.
Now here's an
Subhanallah.
example. Say, and I've only heard about this from one Muslim family, but this is a common practice amongst the Amish. You need something, uh, anything. You need $10,000, right? Now, today we would think, okay, where am I going to get $10,000 from? You're like scratching your head and all this stuff. For the Amish, that's nothing. Okay, so Ali, you need $10,000. We have our Sunday service. Brother Ali needs $10,000. Bam, the whole community just gives it to you right then and there.
Wow.
It's expected that you will help your brother
Yeah, and
immediately.
that's not a loan. Is that a loan or?
No, because you are going to help out the next person.
Yeah, you get that. Yeah, yeah,
So you could pay it back, but you are going to be paying it back somehow, some way,
yeah,
sometime.
yeah. Incredible. And there's no need to like police that or enforce that. It's just like that's that's the power of, dare I say, shame. Shame and social pressure and all of these things are very powerful things that have dictated those kind of things you're talking about, Sharif, for centuries, right? Like
Right.
they didn't need a law to dictate that if you don't contribute to the community, you're going to jail or you're going to get lashes or whatever.
Well, it's their version of taqwa as well, isn't it? Because they have that religious element. They fear God in their own way, and they
Oh,
think,
yeah, there
Yes.
must be that
they're going to be
element,
the good
Sharif, right?
deeds. And
Yeah. I mean, they are
Yeah.
very, religious outwardly and inwardly. I mean,
Mm.
when you see them, for example, the women always wear dresses, their long dresses. They have their hair covered, and part of that is they believe that uh, women have to cover their hair in order to pray.
Right.
So they're always like this because they're always ready to pray. It's
قياما
part of
وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم.
so they're just it's just integrated into their everyday life.
Wow.
See, while Sharif's been talking, all I've been visualizing is like a Vice documentary following him around the homestead. And you know it's happening, Sharif. The bigger you grow, you're going to hit some media radar, and they're going to come. They're going to want to see what's going on. What's this little enclave of Muslims? What's
Well,
going on here?
hey, they're welcome to come. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
and with Google Maps and everything, I go on there. They've been taking a lot of pictures because our maps have been getting updated. So,
Yeah.
uh, and I can tell from when I had this one garden where I was using tires, and I put tires in the shape of a flower. Then I changed that up, and I had a travel trailer, as you guys would call it, caravan in one place, and
Ah,
then I moved it later,
yeah.
and then that picture's been updated to the most recent picture. Um, I guess it was a couple months ago. And if I look at it, I can actually tell you the date, the
Mm.
day, because my truck was at my office and it was parked a certain way, and I
Yeah,
was doing something. So
they're taking
yeah,
those photos.
You're just
that's okay.
toying with them at Google, Sharif.
We're like, this guy is. We got to take another picture. He keeps moving stuff around.
Soon you're gonna
No,
have Street View.
Oh, we do have
absolutely.
Street View, but they're going to update that soon too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about on top of the masjid, on the roof, just having a big arrow,
Yeah.
and then just right underneath it, right Qibla.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then you can see on on the aerial view if
Yes.
it's in the right
You want an
direction or
aerial
not.
view?
Yeah. Wow.
Alhamdulillah. I suppose you've got to prep yourself though, haven't you? Because as it grows, you are going to start hitting radars, and you are going to have to prep yourself for, media training or whatever, just to be able to represent your community in the best light. Because no doubt about it, they're vicious and they will try and change the narrative in a way, or try and frame it in a way, and edit,
Well,
an interview in a way, or whatever it is. Because the Amish are pretty much untouched on. I mean, people might think they're weird. The mainstream might think they're weird, but they're not seen as like a suspect threat or whatever. And I'm not saying you are,
yeah.
obviously you're not, but I can imagine some media, jumping on that and being like, oh, well, what's this happening under our noses right now? And these Muslims, they're
Well,
gathering and they're praying and they're community building and whatever.
one of the things that we did, when we first came, my wife and I, so we were living in Medina, and there was this Turkish istiraha, and they had like this store, and they
Mm.
used to sell chocolate covered dates.
Yeah.
So, like I'd say, I check everybody out. I did check the demographics of this place before I came, and I bought dates for every family that was here, and I went around and I gave out dates, and I gave out, scented oil to the people, introduced myself, and so they knew me on day one. I wasn't going to let them come down here looking what's going on. I went to them
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
100%.
Um, and I used the community building because I'm part of the community. And because we've established a nonprofit organization, uh, we get the use of the building for free. So, because of that, my nonprofit organization, which is a religious organization, runs the judo program. So the non-Muslims are just like well, for many people in the States, they might have went to the YMCA for like a youth basketball league or whatever. So the, Young Men's Christian Association. Well, these non-Muslims are coming to, Andalusia.
That's awesome. And that's reputation building, isn't it? Because you're doing that way before. I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but you're doing that before anything was to happen, as opposed to a lot of Muslim communities, a lot of masajid areas where there's Muslims. It's not until something happens that we go out and start giving gifts. Oh, no, we're cool, really. We're great. Look, hug me. Social experiment.
Hug me, I'm
Hug me.
Muslim.
Hug me, I'm Muslim.
Oh,
But we should have done that before the bad stuff happened. But you know what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, I suppose
yeah,
anyone who's worth their weight in interview salt, they will do, they'll come, they'll interview you guys, and then they'll be like, oh, let's go get the scoop from the neighbors and see how much, let's find all the
Yeah.
racist neighbors and see what their take is. But now everyone ideally would be supporting you, and then it'll be like, oh, this isn't much of a story.
yeah.
Do you know what
It's
I mean?
not going to be much of a story here because, alhamdulillah, one of the old established families here is the Moore family. Uh,
Right.
so Greg Moore is the patriarch, and his family actually had what was it? The second biggest dairy ranch in Texas before. But now they scaled back. So now they own 28,000 acres in New Mexico.
Right.
Can't
Yeah,
fathom that.
yeah, he scaled back.
I always remember
But
from you, Sharif, that an acre is like a football pitch, right? Football field.
yes,
Yeah. So I always remember that since you told me. And then you're like 28,000 football pitch. I'm like, what?
yeah, it's just incredible. And I went to the county fair, and so I was making some videos there. And then he saw me. He said, "Hey, Sharif." I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And everybody always helps out everybody. So he was like, "I really appreciate what you did for Clay and Anna." So, that's my neighbor, his son and daughter-in-law. He
Mm,
says, we need more people like you. I said, well, they've helped me numerous times. So, I'm just helping them. He goes, yep, that's what America's about.
Mm.
It wasn't a thing about, you're Muslim and we're looking at you funny or whatever. So this
mm,
guy actually has an animal preserve, and I just saw him. It was about what, 3 weeks ago, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, Sharif," he goes, if any of your friends want to go out, go out there for a picnic or anything, just go head out. And
mm,
this guy's he's already been on the news because of the animals, and they reintroduced some wild animals back into the area. But it's a beautiful area um, to go and just relax. And so we get invitations for that. Uh, just alhamdulillah, we're very fortunate that we're in a situation and in a community where we don't have any knuckleheads really.
mm.
Alhamdulillah, that's great.
So you would say, like, socially, pretty much everyone's conservative.
Oh yeah. So for example, we're not nobody's walking around with regards to females. Nobody's walking around the non-Muslims like in shorts. That's not happening.
Mm.
Mm,
They're wearing, pants. They're wearing jeans. Um, so from a non-Muslim point of view, the way they're dressed is very conservative.
yeah,
From our point of view, it's like, okay, well, alhamdulillah, at least their butt's
could be
covered. And
worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be
yeah,
worse.
Mm,
yeah.
Good man.
mm.
There
What
was
about, like,
one girl.
in? Go on.
There was one girl. This was the wildest girl in town, and she dyed her hair blue and then like purple and then
Mm,
pink one week. That was
mm.
the wild girl.
She got shunned for a month for that.
But she still had on jeans.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm. That sounds pretty conservative, yeah. But what about, this new what they call it, revoking the Roe versus Wade? I know now,
uh,
like, each state can decide what side to take on that. What did they do in New Mexico?
so New Mexico is still pro-abortion.
Mm,
We border Texas, which is anti-abortion.
mm,
So people from Texas just drive to New Mexico and get an abortion.
mm. Got you.
And the governor uh, has plans to build an abortion clinic on the Texas border so they don't have to travel as far.
Great. Okay. Dawah. Uh,
Yeah.
what do you think about what Muhammad said, Sharif, in terms of, you're in America, you probably, you have an idea of the different sides of the political divide, if you like. Do you think it might have been more prudent and successful in the end for Muslims to try and ally more with the Republicans or the right wingers, if you like, versus what did end up happening, which is more going towards the left?
Okay, so this is going to be really difficult for some people to swallow, but if they understand what the parties believe in, and forget
Mm,
about who the leader is. So, previous leader of the Republican Party, Trump, and man, I'm putting her out there. I'm putting her on blast. So, what is their name? Linda Sansor or Sansor?
Sarsor, yeah.
Sansor. She made a statement, and if I'm wrong in the statement, I'm just paraphrasing. So, anybody that's listening, feel free to correct me. But she said, if you vote for Trump, I have to seriously check your Islam.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So you're not voting for Trump. You're voting for a party and their political
Mm,
views.
policies, yeah.
You're not going to find somebody that you agree with 100% on every single issue
Yeah.
because the Democratic Party said previously that, and was speaking to African and Muslim countries, don't tell me that, uh, what is it, homosexual rights uh, invalidates or something religion. They have rights and you will accept them.
Mm,
Or you won't be getting any foreign aid from us. This
Who
was a
said that?
Democratic. This was during the Obama administration.
Right. Mm.
So right then there, so like for Muslims, like, well, like I gotta accept whatever you say, even though it contradicts my religion.
Mm.
So how can you vote for them?
Mm.
So again, you're never going to have 100%.
Yeah.
However, if the Muslims look at what the Republican views are, they'll be Republican.
Mm.
Mm.
They will leave the Democratic Party. The Republican views are very conservative views
Yeah.
um, compared to the Democrats. Democrats basically uh, transgender, homosexual, do what you want. That's their like calling. Republican Party's like, no, families, traditional family, that's what we believe in.
Mm.
So if you're a Muslim, I mean, what do you believe in a traditional family of a man and a woman or any old body?
Mm.
Yeah. Traditional.
I suppose from an outside perspective, it looks like right wing generally overtly hate Islam, but actually under the underbelly of it is actually their values are very similar to what we would hold as valuable. But then
Mm.
the left wing is like overtly we love Islam, but not realizing that the underbelly actually is not compatible because their values are
Exactly.
wildly different. And it's kind of like
Mm.
because that's one thing I liked about about Trump was just like if he didn't like us, he'd say so. But also what I thought valuable was like there was this "Make America Great Again, America First" culture, which led me to think, well, hands off all the Muslim countries. Like let's leave them alone. Why are we going to Iraq and why are we going here? These countries need to look after themselves. Like the whole Afghanistan withdrawal, for example, was kind of out of that kind of movement of like they can police themselves, they can look after themselves.
Yeah,
And
the
when it,
Republicans don't. Sorry.
no, that's it. I was going to just finish by saying, when when a when a when America has been basically taking over the world and decimating Muslim countries for so many years, a little bit of hands off, narrative is actually what Muslims need, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the Republicans don't, for the compared to the Democrats, want to be involved in foreign policy. So when they have their votes and they're like, the Democrats want to send all this foreign aid to Muslim countries, the Republicans are like, no, 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 no,
Mm,
no. It's not that they don't want to send aid to Muslim countries. It's they're like, our debt's increasing
yeah,
and we're not taking care of our own people. So
yeah,
why are we going to
100%.
be taking care of all these other people? It
Mm.
doesn't make,
100%.
any sense. And I can like support that. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I love the Muslims, but I see people here. We have the working poor. There is, the United States, the richest nation in the world. There is no need to have like working poor. It's like it doesn't make any sense
Mm.
at all. And then they say, the United States is too big. We can't, give health care to everyone. Well, the Soviet Union was bigger with 11 time zones, but they had social, and medical care for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
So,
it's
And
interesting.
what about like if the Muslims kind of chose to ally with the Republicans, right? Not just politically, but those kind of minded people and their organizations, because a lot of Muslims are actually embedded in left-leaning organizations, not just in the political side of things, but in social stuff. Yeah. If a Muslim goes to a right-leaning organization in the US and wants to get involved, wants to help out because they agree with whatever they're working on, would they be shunned and say, you're Muslim, we hate you, you're going to the hell or whatever, yeah? Or do you think they'll be mostly open, or would it be a mix? Or
I think they would be like some people, they'd be surprised, like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? But once you talk to them, they'd be like, oh, okay, welcome. So, for example, I remember I went to the community building one time and the Republican Party was having a meeting, right? So I showed up there for for judo, and I went in there like they looked at me. They're like, we're having a Republican meeting here. I'm like, okay, how come you didn't give me an invitation? I'm Republican. And they looked at me like, oh, you are? Oh, sit down, buddy, sit down. You know, they got all excited, like like man. but it's those are the extremes. But New Mexico is different because the Democrats in New Mexico seem like Republicans. It's just a very conservative, atmosphere here.
So this view
Um,
that like right wingers hate Muslims, you know, they're Christian and they hate Muslims, is that just blown way out of proportion?
it depends on where you are. I have
Okay.
to say that.
Yeah.
So, for example, the National Rifle Association, right?
Yeah.
NRA.
Yeah.
I'm a member, and no problem. Proud member. I'm going to go shoot and do whatever. That's basically a Republican-backed, organization. Uh, and I, recommend every Muslim just join, go to the gun range and start shooting, and then just show them, like, I mean, you're a law-abiding citizen. You shouldn't have to be like hiding. You're not a second-class citizen. You're an American. Okay, so go do what every other American does. Uh, but once they see Muslims out there doing more and not hiding, because I'm sorry to say, but Muslims hide, uh, you'll be more accepted. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you have to mix with that, non-Muslim community, but they need to see you. Um, and oh, that just takes me to one other quick thing. So in my community, what we do is monthly, we try to have a picnic slash cookout in the good weather, uh, at the village park. So everybody's going to see us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like, what are they doing down there or whatever? They see us every month. They
Yeah.
see us at judo. I mean,
Yeah.
all the non-Muslim kids that come to my judo class see us pray. They know what the adhan is. They hear it. They even told me to go pray. Like, yo,
Yeah.
man, chill. I'm about to go pray.
You get a bit
That's it, man.
defensive
Like
there.
everything you do is dawah, really, and that's what I think is so inspirational about you, Sharif, and the project that you've got going on. Because
Alhamdulillah.
we said before, like a lot of, I've always argued that the people that believe in God and some sort of legislation or rules and conservatism are going to be more, I don't know, they're going to be more attentive to the dawah than somebody who maybe is atheist and believes there shouldn't be any rules and everyone can do what they want. It's like trying to win them over is very difficult. So yeah, I think you're in an arena actually where there's so much good that can come out of this for the Muslims at large, and I think a lot of Muslims should embrace what you're trying to do and your views as well in this. And you can clearly see the benefit, even if you're not Republican. Let's say you're a Muslim and you don't support, you're not following that Republican ideology or whatever you want to call it. You can see your thinking here, and you can see the logic behind what you're doing and the way your community is built in this area. So yeah, and the values, definitely it goes back to the values, because you're going to raise your kids in this environment. And heck, we speak about it every single episode, don't we? No, at least I do. The stuff that I've got to put up with in this community, which is vastly different than what you're dealing with over there. So
Yeah. I've seen some
100%.
of the stuff. I'm in the
Yeah,
UK. Oh man, I feel for you, brother.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, I think more power to you, bit if you know what I mean. So may Allah make it easy for you, bro.
I mean,
And I
Sharif,
believe in passive dawah. Passive dawah is, for me, I believe is the key. I don't like
yeah.
when people get in your face. I don't like when Christians, used to stop me on the street and like, no, trying to, get me to their way. If I saw somebody, on the street and they're conducting themselves in a respectable manner, I'm like, "Oh, that's a nice person, and maybe I can be friends with that person. Uh, we know everybody's not going to accept Islam, but we can make less enemies by showing good character.
This is
Yeah.
it. You're committed to building that relationship, and eventually the conversation will come out. Like I've rarely ever had conversations with random people about Islam unless they've asked me. But it's the people that I've worked with for like a year or months, or those are the people that eventually the conversation comes out naturally and they're more receptive. And I'm sure that's what you're going to establish there. It's your neighbors, it's your community, it's the people in the village, it's those people that are going to be talking to you. And you've already established a reputation of yourself as an upright individual. So yeah, 100%.
MashaAllah. Sharif,
No,
what effect did Corona and then part B, like the current kind of inflation and all that's going on right now, like specifically in the US, how did these two things affect like Andalusia, your community? whether it's growing or the people there and its growth?
The uh, coronavirus had no effect on our community. Alhamdulillah, we were still able to have Taraweeh, we were still able to have Juma, because we're basically self-isolated to begin with. So that really had no effect. And actually, more people contacted me during this time. There was a greater interest of like, coming out here and seeing and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, so it actually, you know, even if they don't want to come here, it just got people thinking about, establishing communities where they live.
Yes.
So, but with regards to inflation, uh, hmm, I've noticed a difference in prices uh, on certain things, but we we buy in bulk, and we do our shopping like once a month.
Is that the
So, and
community or your family?
my family and other members in the community do something similar. They might go twice a month or maybe once a month, but it's similar because everything is so far away. So we don't want to spend a lot of money in gas traveling back and forth.
Yes.
So you make those trips count. In
Yeah.
my family, what we do is we combine the shopping trip with a dental or you know eye doctor's appointment or something like that. So everything kind of pays for itself.
So could you say like inflation doesn't hit you as hard because you probably buy less things than other people, right? Because you told us before you trade certain items like milk for vegetables or whatever, or for meat or whatever, or even I think you said before you swapped judo lessons for something, right?
Yeah, judo lessons for a tractor.
There you go.
Nice.
Incredible. So, even energy wise, maybe you're trying to be more independent. So, do you think you get affected less by something like inflation or fuel prices?
Yeah, I believe so because everybody out here is in the rural part of our community. Those people that are in the village, they're paying regular utilities. But for us out here, everybody's on solar. So you're making your own electricity,
100%?
100% on 100%
MashaAllah.
solar for
Oh,
7
great.
years.
Yeah. And water comes from, well?
Water comes in the beginning, I was
Yeah.
getting water from the village. There's
Yeah.
a
I remember on the
filtration.
truck. Yeah.
But now I get water from my sister, my mom, and my aunt. I just go to their house because they have an allowance from the village, part of their utilities, and they don't use all of it.
Yeah.
So I'll just go and get, uh, what is it, 1,500 gallons from my mom. I'll go over to my aunt. I'll get 2,000 gallons from there. And then my sister has a second house now, so I'll just go take 4,000 gallons from her house.
MashaAllah. So, and is there anyone in the community who has a well or they could dig a well?
No one has a well. Um, and that was one of the reasons why we were interested in that other property. It has a well.
Wow.
But also rain catchment is a better source of getting water. For one, our wells are 250 to 300 feet deep. So almost 100 meters,
Yeah.
down to hit water,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing because the farther down it is,
Cleaner.
yes, exactly. Um, However, rain catchment, we can just put up a rain roof. Actually, there's a great video on YouTube. Guy did it. He did it like 2, 3 feet off the ground, and instead of putting on top of a house, which is very smart.
Yeah.
Um, and he just collects his water like that. It goes into a gutter. Then it goes there, follows through the drain, and then there's like some mesh filters to get out the big debris, and then it goes into a cistern, and then they just purify it after that.
How do they purify it?
Different types of uh, filters.
Oh,
From
like,
in our household, we have the Berkeley filter. Um,
it's like, is it that the reverse osmosis or something?
Now, the Berkey filter is a
Oh,
charcoal-based filter, and then you get the arsenic adapters too to make sure you filter out everything. Man, Berkey, if you're watching this, y'all need to like hit me off with some money for the shout out that I'm giving you.
Sponsored.
Because yeah, Berkey is a great filter. It technically it can take seawater and make it into fresh water.
Mm,
Um, However, if you do that, you will like use your filters a lot faster than they're intended to be used.
sure. Yeah.
But you can take and it's good quality water. I mean, it's I took my Berkey filter to Saudi Arabia with me,
Mm,
and then when I was there, I sold it to a brother, and then just bought a new one when I got back.
mm,
Um, they're great things. I'm in my office right now. I got one sitting behind me. I got one down in my house. We take it when we travel because hotel water is full of chlorine. Tastes like you're in a swimming pool or something.
mm,
Mm.
mm, mm. And how's the progress on the? I remember you saying last time you were trying to get more and more independent, right? So like
Yes.
vegetables, meat wise. I remember meat wise you were fully covered. What about
Mhm.
what's left? For you to be fully independent of.
Well, we'll never be fully independent, and I tell people that it's not the best idea. So
Mm.
let me just give you an example.
Uh huh.
So oil, cooking oil.
Yeah.
If you're using olive oil, avocado oil, vegetable oil, whatever it may be, it's so labor intensive that it's just cheaper to buy it.
Yeah.
So don't think you have to be 100%, self-sufficient. Uh, just do as much as you can,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and that's what we do. So this year it was really dry, and our rains came late. But alhamdulillah, this is the most rain New Mexico has had in the past 130 years. So now
Mm.
it's
Oh,
caused
wow.
flood. But because it was late, I didn't want to do a big garden because I was, I'm not going to just go out there and waste the water that is available.
Mm.
Um, but my potato crop is, mashallah, looks so, well, the tops. You can't tell until, you dig everything out.
Yeah.
But everything looks beautiful. The things that we did grow, it looks beautiful. There's a brother in town, Dawood, we call him Pops because, he's 73 years old,
Mashallah.
alhamdulillah.
Mm.
And his garden is beautiful. And
Uh-huh.
then, another brother, Tessin, alhamdulillah, his stuff is amazing.
Mm.
So um, everybody grew, but they just scaled it back this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have to. Did you have to go and buy things that you didn't usually have to buy?
Um, yes, a little bit,
Mm.
but it's still worth it.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
worth it. It's still more cost effective. But we
Mm.
save a lot of money because um, we make almost everything from scratch. It's not like we're getting processed food uh, in my
Sure.
house.
Yeah. I guess one of the things it doesn't make sense for you to grow is like to get flour.
Oh,
You
no,
you
no.
just buy that, right? Or
Yeah. So at one time we were buying the actual they call them wheat berries, and
yes.
we have a grinder and we would grind them.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, because if you store the berries, they're less likely to go rancid
Hmm.
than flour that's already,
Right.
ground.
Sure.
But we use so much flour that we're buying our flour in like 50-pound bags,
Yeah.
and we'll use like I think about 100 pounds of flour a month.
Mm.
But we're making all of our bread. Uh, Alhamdulillah, there was a sister that visited the community, and they bought land here too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she was talking to my wife, and she told my wife, she goes, "I can't believe it. These hamburger buns in New Mexico are so much better. Where did you buy them?" And my wife was like, "Right there in the kitchen. I made them."
That shows that says it all, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
Speaking of rain,
Alhamdulillah.
actually, Sharif, what I feel like I never know what I'm going to get an interesting perspective from you on, right? So I want to ask you this. Speaking of rain and stuff, what is your view on? I guess, yeah, just climate change. Like, is the climate is changing, right? It's always changing, no matter
Yeah.
what. But like, yeah, I don't know. Is it like it seems, and this is what I guess the news says a lot, is that things are a lot more volatile or unstable. There's a lot more extremes in climate than
Mhm.
we used to have. even in my lifetime, that's what I feel, but it might just be that the news is saying it. I don't know, but what's your perspective on that?
Well, of course, climate is changing, but I think the media is attacking certain industries. For example, the cattle industry and the sheep industry. They're trying to say that, farts and burps from these animals is destroying the ozone layer. They are a small percentage compared to what's coming from the ocean and what's coming from factories. Um, so yeah, I mean the climate is changing, um, and it's kind of crazy where you have these Western nations telling these underdeveloped nations, you can't do this because it's bad for the environment, but they're still doing it. But these nations that are trying to develop can't develop, and they will never reach the same height as the UK or the US or Turkey or Saudi Arabia because you don't allow them to have these industries. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we should allow them to have these industries, but the Western nations need to be more responsible and cut back on what they're doing. And
So,
there's alternative power. I mean, I'm living on solar for 7 years.
yeah. How big was that? I mean, it's just you're one family, but like, how big of an investment is it, or how big are the panels? What area do they cover?
Okay, so what I recommend to people is you build small systems. You have multiple small systems instead of like one large system that covers your whole house.
Decentralized. Yeah.
Because if you have a problem with your big system, then you have no power.
Yeah.
If you have a bunch of small systems, if something happens, you can like, limp along and, use another system. So, for example, I have my own setup for my office. I have another setup for my house.
Oh, got you.
Uh,
Okay.
and then there's another small setup for my house then that we use for the kids' computers for school. So, what else? And I still have some panels. And then I have one, two, three, four generators as backup.
Diesel
Uh,
generators. Yeah.
actually, gasoline.
Okay.
Uh, and I have a wind turbine that I still need to get put up, but I still didn't get it up yet.
So not all wind turbines need to be those huge ones that you see.
No, no, I have a small wind turbine
Yeah.
that, you know, we have a lot of wind here, especially at night. There's no sun, so why not just make some power at night?
Sure.
It's just
And you have well, what do you do for power in the nighttime? You have batteries
so,
or
yeah, we have a battery bank.
oh,
So we designed our system that I could be without sun during the daytime for 3 days and still have the power that I need. And that's what I
solid.
recommend to people. Make sure you design it for at least 3 days. Inshallah, you'll get sun within 3 days, but
Yeah.
even on a cloudy day, it charges. It's just not the full effect.
Yeah. Being in Turkey, you just think, wow, like all this place needs is solar, like that. I mean, like even in the winter, I'm sure it would do something decent,
No.
But yeah, different policies. So you do think, Sharif, that the climate is changing because of like human intervention,
I think
human
it's not just
action?
that. I think it's a combination
Yeah.
of things. So yeah, it's a combination of things. I don't think it's just one particular thing. And that's what they're trying to push. One particular thing is causing this. I
Yeah.
mean, the Earth goes through cycles.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had an ice age, there were no factories around, polluting and doing all this stuff. So how did we have an ice age, and then how did it warm up again? So
Yeah. I guess it's hard to pin down like causation, right? Like,
no,
because if the climate's changing anyway, how do you know if it's because of what we're doing or it was changing like that anyway? Maybe there's a way to measure that. I don't know.
Paper straws, bro. That's what's happened. This is the biggest travesty. But
Well, that's a whole different thing. I feel, Mohammed, right? It's like there's littering, that's one thing, and then there's the whole pollution side. They're like two
it's all
kind of
connected,
different
baby.
things.
Sharif, I think you're out of time, bro.
yes, brother, yes, it is time. I got to go give the khutbah.
Jazakallah
Shout out Mind
khair.
Heist in the khutbah, yeah? No, I'm joking. Of course not. Can you imagine?
Jazakallah khairan for joining us again,
Oh,
Sharif.
yeah.
Amazing, very insightful. And
Alhamdulillah. Pleasure.
I believe you are you raising money for any of your projects right now, like for the community?
Well, actually, we're doing a masjid renovation project. During the summer, it was extremely hot.
Yeah,
And, we want to keep the youth motivated to come to the masjid because they love coming.
yeah.
So we're doing spray foam insulation. Actually, I'm working on it now. Before we started, I was studying out the masjid because the contractor is coming on Monday to do the spray foam. Uh, and unfortunately, we're short of money, so we need to get the rest of the money within 30 days, sorry, after he comes out, so we don't run into any problems. So we have a launch good project that we're trying to raise for.
Okay, okay. I think you sent me to that. Sent me that link, so I'll put that in the description. And inshallah, the Mind Heist audience will go like the Amish on this, where they just give.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Wow.
Okay, great. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاك الله خير again, and inshallah sometime soon again. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.